You guys know what time it is. It's officially August. Final form is here. Madden 21 in a few weeks. I'm going to have gameplay for you guys in a few weeks as well. So if you don't want to miss that, make sure to subscribe, bell icon's on so you don't miss any of that. Current sub count is up on the screen. You guys have been killing it lately. Let's try to hurry up and get to this 300K before Madden 21 comes out. But today it's time for one of my favorite yearly videos. 5 things that will no longer work in this year's Madden. Every year EA, they nerf things. They try to take things out of the game that were overpowered last year. This year they had quite a few things to work on. So we're going to get right into it. 5 things that will not work in Madden 21. Now, the first thing we have to talk about, of course, is the stretch dive spam. This is not going to work in Madden 21. Now, don't get me wrong. The run game is still pretty decent, at least judging off the beta, everybody that played it, you can still run the ball. And more runs seem a little bit more viable than last year, where it was mainly just stretch and dive. The main difference is, at least the front 7 plays the stretch and the dive much better than they did last year. Last year, literally anybody could run the ball. I mean, anybody could run the ball. Stretch, dive, stretch, dive. You didn't have to pass. It was pretty easy. That is until later in the year, where more people found more complex run defenses and were able to stop people that weren't as good, but the elite players could still, of course, run every play. But judging off the beta, if you're just trying to live by the stretch and the dive, that's not going to be a thing for Madden 21. Maybe if you're a super elite runner, you can run the ball the majority of the time, but the average Joe isn't going to be able to just mindlessly call stretch and dive anymore. Now, the pursuit in the game still seemed pretty bad, which played a hand in why the run was so good in Madden 20. However, the front 7 does play it a lot better. They react to the runs better in terms of filling the gaps. Really, for stretches in particular, the force defenders set the edge a lot tougher, so they kind of force you back inside more often than they did in Madden 20, and the inside linebackers do a pretty decent job of filling the gaps. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't dumb out sometimes. It doesn't mean that you still can't break these runs or that these runs still won't work. It's just that you won't be able to spam them every play. I just can't see that being a thing for 21. Probably the biggest thing EA wanted to address, because they don't want another year of just people running dive and stretch every play. They want people to pass the ball. They want the game to be exciting and look more exciting, which is why it seems like defense as a whole versus the pass wasn't very good in the beta. So stretch and dive spam, you can forget that. You're going to have to pass the ball at least a little bit more in Madden 21. Number 2 on the list is actually going to be something that pertains to passing the ball. The one thing about Madden 20 that was probably the most broken about passing the ball, and that is rollout corner routes. Now, if you don't know what this is, let me explain it to you. But I'm sure most of you that play the game have experienced this. Somebody's got a guy on a corner route. He's got a fast QB, preferably one with escape artist. He rolls out to the corner route side. And the farther he rolls to the side, what then happens is the defensive back that's in coverage underneath him will almost rush down at the quarterback and say, hey, I got to go defend the quarterback because he might scramble, and he would leave the corner route wide open. This would happen mostly with things like cloud flats and curl flat zones. So you would have that zone out there hoping that he would sit underneath the corner route, but all you had to do was roll out to that side, and if you did that, he was going to bite down, because in his mind, his logic said the QB has a potential to scramble here, so I'm going to go play the QB, which, in real life, a defender might do that from time to time, but the thing in Madden is you could get them to do that every single play. No matter what you did, for the most part, they would run down at the quarterback every single play. Even if you already had somebody QB spying him, that defensive back would still bite down, and you'd be able to throw the corner every play. Now, if you had a deep zone on the play, all you had to really do was put a streak on the same side to kind of occupy that deep zone. You could run him out of the play, which is fine, but by rolling out to that side, literally no underneath zone would really be able to consistently stop it. Now, with this year, that's not going to be so much of a thing, because number 1, they added these zone drop adjustments, meaning you can force your cloud flats or curl flats to play a certain depth. So if someone's trying to roll out and throw corners on you every play, you can say, hey, I want my cloud flats or I want my curl flats to play 20 or 25 yards deep. You can do this in the coaching adjustments tab in game, and by doing that, those guys will not rush the QB. They will drop to that depth and they will sit under that corner route or a deep crosser route, which kind of goes hand in hand with this. You can roll out and throw deep corners. You could also roll out and do the same thing with the crossing route. Now, as long as you make that adjustment, somebody cannot spam that every play, because you can have your defensive back sitting right underneath it. And then, of course, you QB spy the QB to keep him from running. And you should contain people that want to just roll out and do this every single play. Number 3 on the list is overpowered user defenders. Now this one's really big. This one's controversial. A lot of people hate this, a lot of people like it. It really just depends on which side of the coin you fall on, right? I personally think what they've done with the user defenders was a pretty good idea. I think they made them a little too slow, but in terms of changing direction with user defenders, I think that's a good fix. A lot of people don't agree with it. I get both sides of the argument. It's a video game, you know, it's one of the more successful ways to stop good offenses because this is the key, because the defenders, the AI in the game are usually not very good. So you can make an adjustment, put a guy to defend an area, and he'll still dumb out. So the user defender kind of made up for the poor AI logic. However, the way the user defenders have gotten lately have just been way out of hand. Now, they nerfed them a little bit in Madden 20 in terms of linebackers, but with safeties, they were still as powerful as ever, mainly changing direction. You can change direction on a dime at top speed, even get a speed boost going the other way, and it allowed you to really take away multiple areas of the field. Now, yes, you take away one area, you leave that area to go somewhere else. The problem with this is that, yes, you're not actually taking away both areas of the field at the same time because you are leaving that one area to go to the next one. However, as a user, if you see somebody run to the right and you say, oh, well, the left is open, I'm about to go left. By the time that ball is getting released, that guy can stop on a dime, shoot over there with a speed boost, kind of get there a little too quick. So that is gone, at least in terms of the beta. And in terms of the news EA put out last week that said they weren't going to change the users very much from what they were in the beta version of the game. You can no longer change direction at top speed. There's a new change of direction rating. So you're going to actually have to slow down, stop, and then start again, which I mean, I think that's good. I think that's good. So this year, you're going to have to kind of pick your spots. You're going to have to become better with the adjustments around your user. So if you know someone's putting a route combo on one side of the field, you're going to have to adjust your guys manually to stop that. And then with your user, say, I'm going to take away this receiver. I'm going to take away this slot right here. I'm going to take away this flat if somebody goes to the flat. You're going to have to pick your spot, pick your player that you want to defend, because if you try to jump all over the field, you're going to really wind up defending nothing this year because you're not going to be able to go one way and then get back to the other guy. Once you kind of pick a spot, you kind of have to commit to it this year. So no longer can you just run all over the field. You have to kind of be a little bit more realistic and more predetermined with what you want to do with your user and your defense for Madden 21. Fourth on the list are contained blitzes. Finally, contained blitzes might not be a thing anymore. Now, of course, we don't know what people are going to find when the game comes out, but again, when we're judging off the beta, blitzing in general was very bad in the beta. Like, you could send 7 people, and it seemed like it took them forever to get to the QB. Like, they didn't take those perfect automatic angles directly to the QB like they did last year, which caused, you know, basically blitzes to be almost unblockable, especially when you consider the wind-up time of the QBs. You could get to the QB super fast in Madden 20 by sending 7 and then hovering in the gap with the 8th defender that you would user. In the beta, you sent 7, you were going to get passed on pretty easily to the flats, to the seam, because when you combine that with the fact that the user can't change direction, you see the user go one way, you just throw the other way, and you could actually complete it, which was nice. But contain blitzing on top of that, whenever people were trying to contain blitz, they didn't really seem to come in as fast as they did last year, because now the QB contains have been programmed to play more of a contain assignment. Now, they will still rush a QB if there's just nothing in their way, right? That's what they're supposed to do. If there's just nothing there and he's got a free run to the QB, well, he's going to take that, but he's not just going to make an instant beeline, a perfect, like, basically how contain blitzing worked is like they were almost psychic. They just knew right off the bat that they could take that perfect beeline to the QB, and because you had them in contains, the offensive line would a lot of times ignore them because the offensive line viewed them as, hey, they're going to try to just corral the QB and keep him in the pocket. They're not going to instantly look to rush, but that's what they would do. So the O-line would ignore them a lot of times, especially like if you added an extra tight end, he would ignore the contain guy. Now the contains, they go a little bit wider, they go a little bit slower. If they see that they can get to the QB, then they attack, but they're not just going to rush straight down at them. So contain blitzing seems to be finally a thing of the past, and if you try to blitz heavy with contains, with the way the beta played, you could just easily dot them up. You can just throw quick passes, and it's going to be very hard to run that as a scheme this year. And last but not least, number 5 on the list is QB Blast. Now, the reason I say QB Blast is not going to work as good in Madden 21. It'll still work from time to time, but you've got 2 things. One, the fatigue is definitely turned up for QBs this year. So after you run that QB Blast a couple times, he's going to get very fatigued and fumble the ball. They already fumbled the ball a lot in Madden 20, but the fatigue wasn't as bad, and it was still pretty easy to take advantage of defenses, because the other half of that was if you had the fast break ability combined with the QB blast, well, the defense would react a little bit slower to you. They would react like a half second slow, so they wouldn't hit the gaps right away, so you could easily change direction with that QB and take off, and then you can just slide before getting hit. So this year, you can't do that. They changed the fast break ability, so now the defense won't be delayed in reacting. And also, you can't make like these really drastic cuts with the QB. Like, you can't just kind of do that same stop on the dime, change a direction, cut straight to the outside as easy as you could last year. So the QB blast, while it'll still work situationally, you can't run it as an offense this year, not based on the changes that were made. And while I think the QB blast is a fun thing to run and mix it in, it should never be able to be an entire offense, and the only thing you have to worry about is fumbling. You know, the defense should be able to pretty easily lock that up if you know someone's going to run it every play, and it seems like this year that's a thing now, because they've kind of, you know, balanced the fast break ability so that the defense isn't just clueless for the first second of the play, where the QB can kind of just take off and the defense is just kind of standing in quicksand. So those are the 5 things that will not work in Madden 21. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, gameplay coming soon, so make sure to subscribe, bell icon on so you don't miss it. And as always, I will see you guys next time.